Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak at the Howard League event. I know you're very concerned about the ongoing situation in England and Wales where, due to certain aspects of behaviour, people living in custody can have days added to their sentence. And I know, as I say, that's a considerable concern for you. And of course we don't have that facility here in Scotland. And I was just looking back there to get a historical point for you, and it was back on the 8th of June 2001 when the capacity of the facility to add days to a custodial sentence was done away with in Scotland. And I suppose the issue for us is, and so what? There must be a case to be made, I would have thought, in England and Wales for the continuation of added days, particularly when a comparative partner, similar organisation, the Scottish Prison Service, just a few miles north, doesn't have that facility. And so how has that affected Scotland, and how might it affect England and Wales if in fact added days were no longer available to adjudicators? So that's the start of my rambling. You can see I've come prepared with my cup of tea. It won't take you too long, but just to sow some thoughts and some seeds that might help take your discussion forward over the next half hour or so. So from our perspective, you can imagine that in 2001, when the then Scottish Government, the Scottish Prison Service, decided to take away the capacity for adjudicators to add days to sentence, there would have been all sorts of predictions of doom, gloom and catastrophe. I took some notes for myself, and I think you could summarise it by saying undoubtedly the sky would fall in. And I think that sky falling in would probably include some general deterioration in control in and of prisons, a breakdown of relationships both between perhaps those living in prison and those looking after them. And I think the predictions would probably have been for generally for non-compliance and belligerence amongst the living population to escalate, if not explode. So that would be my description of the sky falling in. And here we are, 16 years on, and we're a prison service that's still pretty recognisable as a prison service. And in fact, if you take into account what Her Majesty's Chief Inspector of Prisons in Scotland is saying about the service, the way that it runs, and more particularly about relationships and safety and control and purposefulness in our individual prisons, none of his commentary, or of that, for that matter, his predecessor's commentary, would in any way make you think that in Scotland the sky has fallen in, and certainly not in any way related to taking away the capacity to add days. So over the 16 years in between in Scotland, compliance has not at all been affected. Control in our prisons has remained in balance, and that's important. And of course relationships between those living in custody and those living in custody and those who are charged with their care has not in any way diminished. In fact, over that period things have developed significantly. And again, you don't need to just take my word for it. If you read what the Chief Inspector is saying about our prisons, what is reported in our staff and prisoner surveys, and more generally what we publish in terms of performance data, there's every indication that this is a service that's continued to grow and become more purposeful and more responsive to the needs of those who pass into our care, but also of the justice system and the community more widely. So I, as head of a service in Scotland in terms of Scottish Prison Service, looking to England and Wales, I would find it extremely difficult to actually make the case to introduce added days if that facility was not already part of the system. And on reflection, in terms of the work that you're engaged in today, I'd find it very difficult to justify the continuation of a facility that adds days to someone's sentence when just a few miles north you have an organisation in the very same business that doesn't add days to people's sentence, and yet the lived experience, the lived environment, as some have reported it, appears to be far more purposeful, far more calm, and perhaps more responsive to the needs of those who come in and out of our care than otherwise would seem to be the case when one compares and contrasts with England and Wales. And I'm very careful then not to make the point of hubris, or for that matter, schadenfreude. None of that would apply to anything I might say. It's just simply the cold facts as they are. And that is, from my view, running the Scottish Prison Service, there is nothing positive or to be gained by continuing with a system that disproportionately, in my view, punishes people by adding days to a sentence, where clearly there are alternatives to modifying and moderating behaviour where that's appropriate, in terms of general relationships, the facilities that are on offer, the conditions of those facilities, and a willingness and an expression of mutuality and trust between those who are sent into our care, for whom at the end of the day we provide the services that we do, on behalf of them and their families and the wider society and the victims of their behaviour, as they transition custody and back to the community. And we would want that to happen as soon as possible, and, as I say, as purposefully as possible. So those are my sort of thoughts and ramblings on the issue. Just to summarise, in my view, there is no evidence whatsoever, certainly in our 16 years of experience, since added days were removed from our administrative capacity, that could in any way either justify the introduction of added days, or for that matter justify their perpetuation. I hope you enjoy your deliberations. Goodbye.